Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. A dark cloud of uncertainty hovers over Britain on Thursday as voters cast their ballots in the nation's historic election that by the end of the day will decide whether the country remains in the European Union. As voters went to polling stations, the significance of the ballot was splashed across the front page of all of the country's major newspapers. Public opinion polls showed the two sides in a dead heat. Turnout was expected to be high, culminating in a bitter two-month campaign that centered largely on immigration, a highly sensitive and divisive issue in a nation whose immigration rate has doubled since 2000. Supporters of the so-called Brexit say Britain has handed control of its border to a European superstate. Prime Minister David Cameron has led the call for Britain to stay in the EU. Cameron and other Brexit opponents say Britain's economy will be badly damaged if it breaks away from the 28-nation bloc. Now, the referendum is being held after Cameron in February failed to secure a deal with the EU that did more to restrict benefits on immigrants and curb businesses and other regulations. Now, for the latest on Thursday's historic vote, Henry Ridgwell joins us live via Skype from Brussels. Hi, Henry.
Good to be with you again, Vincent.
It's not what a big day there in Europe. What's the mood like in Brussels today?
It's a nervous mood here in Brussels. Everybody's watching what is happening in Britain today. Of course, we won't get a result until the early hours of Friday, but people here have been monitoring their internet feeds, their Twitter feeds throughout the day, looking for any hint of what that result might be. The day didn't start with good omens. There were thunderstorms ahead over Brussels, which actually travelled over from Britain. So some people were drawing bad omens from the weather, but it has brightened up here, and some of the lawmakers and the diplomats here in Brussels have taken some optimism from the final polls that were taken in Britain just before the voting began at 7 a.m. local time this morning.
Now, what are some of the contingency, plans that are being put in place just in case the vote goes, either way that it may go?
Well, I think everybody here is hoping that it is a vote to remain, in which case the status quo continues and Brussels doesn't have to take any emergency measures or make any urgent changes to what is happening here. Business continues as usual. There have been meetings behind closed doors to try to draw up contingency measures, but no country has ever left the EU before. Greenland, a region of Denmark, did leave in the 1970s, but that is no precedent really for the earthquake that would happen if Britain voted to leave. So there is plans for an emergency meeting between the President of the European Parliament and the parliamentary groups tomorrow morning. All the presidents of the European institutions will meet later in the day, and we'll get a public and press statements from them throughout the day. I think the mood among them, if Britain votes to leave, will be very cautious, and they will seek to limit any immediate short-term damage to Europe and the economy and the markets here. Beyond that, we'll have to take it day by day because, as I say, there is no blueprint for a country leaving the European Union.
Many times, people rely on polls to make a projection. It looks like in this case, it's hard to tell which way it will go, right?
Absolutely hard to tell. Some of the polls have given both sides a 10-point lead, but then the next day the results are reversed. And if you aggregate all the polls that have been taken together over the past week, it splits something like 51% in favour of remaining, 49% want to leave, and a lot of it depends on voter turnout as well. It's shown by the polls that older people prefer leaving the European Union. Younger people want to remain, but traditionally older people are more likely to turn out to vote. There has been torrential thunderstorms in populated parts of Britain, so it's a very unpredictable race. We'll know in the next few hours the result.
Indeed, in the next few hours. Henry, thank you very much for your reporting. That's VOA's Henry Ridgwell reporting live via Skype from Brussels.